Hello guys, and welcome back to another tutorial. So on today's video we're going to make this button down dress. If that sounds like something you're interested in, keep on watching and let's get right into the video. So starting with the front piece, I'm going to go ahead to just label all my lines, my bust points, under bust, waistline, as well as the hip line. After doing that, we're going to go ahead to start fixing in our measurements. The full length for this dress is 50, but because the pattern paper is very long, you won't see this yet. I also went ahead to keep the allowance here. This is going to serve as the button holes where the buttons are going to sit. That is why we left that part out. I'm going to start by marking my shoulder measurements divided by 2, and you're supposed to start your measurements after the line we have for the buttons. So now I'm just going down by 1 inch for our shoulder slope, and then I'm going to mark my armhole opening. After creating the armhole, I'm going to go ahead to mark out our neckline, and I'm just going to mark out 3 by 1 inch. So I'm just marking this out, and then we're going to carve out the neckline opening. So we're going to draft out the front piece on our pattern paper while we're going to draft the back piece on our fabric. You can as well do this with your pattern paper, but because we do not have any that, I just chose to draft it on the fabric. So I'm done marking out our neckline. I'm going to go ahead to mark my nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2. So I'm going to mark this at the bust point, the under bust, and we're just going to rule a straight line after marking this out. After marking this out, we're also going to mark our shoulder line here. So I'm going to get the midpoint of the shoulder, and then I'm going to mark it out. So from that point, we're just going to rule this to meet with our bust point. Now we're going to go ahead to mark out that at the bottom part, the under bust area. So I'm going to work with 0.75. So you can work with as much as ½ inch, because this is not a bustier. We're just doing this to have somewhere our bust is going to relax when wearing this dress. So I'm marking this on both sides, and I'm going to extend this all the way down and rule a straight line. If you're making this for someone with a smaller bust, you would want to take out ½ inch on both sides instead of 0.75. So take note of that as well. After rolling this line, we're going to extend this down to our hip line. So I'm going to go ahead to do that. So this is what we have after extending the lines. Next, on our shoulder line, we're going to take out ½ inch on both sides, and then we're going to rule a straight line to meet at the bust point. So this is what we have. Now we're going to start imputing our body measurements. So we're going to start with the bust measurements divided by 4. And you can see that I'm starting my measurements at the line after the line we marked out, and I'm adding my stitching allowance. I'm going to add my under bust measurement as well divided by 4, and we're going to do the same thing for all our measurements all the way to the hip line. And you want to make sure you're adding in enough seam allowance, because this is not going to be a free dress. You should add as much as 2 to 2.5 inch sewing allowance after adding in your body measurements. So this is what I'm going ahead to do. This is what we have, and our measurement stops at the hip line. So I'm going to extend the camera to the lower part so you see the bottom part. So now we're going to go ahead to mark out the bottom part. For the bottom part, I'm going to go ahead to mark out 18 inches. You can go as far as 20 inches, but I choose to make use of 18 inches. So now I'm going to mark this out, and then we're going to drag this from this bottom part back to the top part of our waist area. So you're not ruling this to your hip line. You do not want to do that. You want to rule this to your waistline. So take note, you're not ruling this to the hip line. You're going to use your ruler, and then you're going to drag it all the way to your waistline. So I do not have my ruler here with me, but I'm going to use my hand to do a free hand drawing. So I'm just going to drag this with dotted lines first all the way down, and then I'm going to rule it again for the final time. You will not have this issue if you have a ruler for this. So guys, this is what the pattern is looking like from top to bottom. We're going to go ahead to cut this out. So guys, I forgot to mention that at the shoulder area where we took out 1 inch dart, you're going to return back that 1 inch to this point at the armhole area so that your measurement is complete. So this is the fabric we're working with for this tutorial, and this is a lightweight crepe, and I'm working with 3 yards of this crepe fabric. So we're going to cut the back piece, and I'm essentially marking out everything I marked out for the front piece. So we're doing the same thing we did for the front piece. The only difference here is that we do not have a button space at the back, and there's also no dart at the back. So now I'm going to go ahead to just start imputing my body measurement divided by 4, the same way we did for the front. After adding our measurements and our sewing allowance, I also went ahead to do the same thing for the bottom part the way we did for the front, and I extended the lines all the way down from the waistline down to the full length of our dress. So now we're going to go ahead to cut this out. Now I'm placing the front pattern on our fabric, and this is on fold, and we're going to go ahead to cut everything out, leaving 1/2 inch sewing allowance at the sides to join everything together, and also at the shoulder area we left out 1/2 inch. You're also going to leave 1 inch for the length of your dress just to fold it in. Now we're going to start working on the front piece. We're going to start by folding in our button allowance we left out here. So we're going to fold this in and then give it a good press. You want to make sure you're using your hemming gum for this so everything stays in place. So we're going to go ahead to iron this down and then bring it back to continue sewing. So this is what we have after ironing down that part. Now we're going to go ahead to join the sides together. We're going to hold it from the top, and then we're just going to sew all the way to the very end by 1/2 inch. So I'm going to take this to the machine and sew. I'm going to do the same thing for the opposite side as well. After sewing, this is what we have. I also went ahead to open up the seams to give it a good press. So you would want to overlock this at this stage so the fabric doesn't fray and it has a neat finish. Now I'm going to set the front piece aside to work on the back piece. So for the back piece, we're just going to lay this down and then we're going to attach our loops to the back part of the dress. So the loops are going to be placed 2 to 3 inches below the armhole area. So I'm going to bring in the loops I went ahead to sew, and I went ahead to cut them out into pieces like this. I'm just going to fold them and pin this down to secure it in place to take to the machine to sew. This is what the placement of the loops is looking like. So we're going to take this to the machine to stitch it down for both sides, both this side as well as the opposite side. After adding the loops, this is what we have. We're going to bring back the front piece and we're going to join the front piece and the back piece together by the shoulder. So I place the fabric right sides facing each other and we're going to take this to the machine to sew by 1/2 inch on both sides. After joining the shoulders together, we're going to move on to join the sides of the dress together by 1/2 inch. So before joining the sides, you would want to mark out the opening of your pocket, and this is totally optional if you do not want to have a pocket in this dress. So I went ahead to mark out mine, and I did this 1.5 inches below where the last loop ends, and then the opening of the pocket was about 6 inches to 6.5 inches. So I just went ahead to mark that out. So this is what we have. I'm now going to take this to the machine to sew the sides and then fix in my pocket. After joining the sides, this is what we have. We're going to go ahead to close up the armhole area and the neckline area as well. So this is the fabric we're going to work with for the piping, and this is 1.5 inch wide. And I went ahead to iron down 1/2 inch on both sides, as you can see right now. So for the length, you want to measure your neckline round from the beginning part all the way to the opposite side, and take note of what you have there, and that is going to be the length you're going to use to pipe this. So what I had after taking the measurement was 21 inches. We're going to add 1 inch to that for our joining allowance, and that's going to be 22 inches. So that's what we're going to use to cut out this band here, or that is what we used rather to cut out the band we have. So you're also going to do the same thing for the armhole of the dress. You're going to pipe it as well. One thing I forgot to mention is that you'd want to cut out the fabric for the piping on bias. Make sure you're cutting it on bias. So like I said, you want to also pipe the armhole area of the dress. I just went ahead to change my mind and just cut out a basic sleeve. So that is what I ended up using. So this is what it's looking like, and I went ahead to iron this down with hemming comb just so everything stays in place. So now we're going to fold this like this, and you want to make sure one is overlapping the other, making sure that one is longer than the other. This is because we want to stitch this down together, but in a way that once we're stitching the front part, we're also stitching the back part at the same time, and everything stays in place. Now I'm going to stitch this side here by 1/2 inch, and this is the wrong side we're stitching down, making sure one is overlapping each other before you're sewing this. After sewing, I went ahead to trim off the excess we have here, and now I'm going to flip this over to the right side and then just use my scissors to punch on the inside to make sure everything is in place. So you can see that after sewing that part, our fabric is still overlapping each other, and that is what you want to have when you're done sewing. Now I'm bringing in the dress, and we're going to fix this to the neckline of the dress, and you want to make sure that the shorter part is on the outer side of the dress while the longer part is on the inner part of the dress. So I'm just going to fix this together, holding it very well, and then we're going to start sewing. After sewing, this is what we have. You can see that after stitching this, it's still reflecting on the wrong side of our fabric. So this is what it's looking like on the inner part. You want to make sure you give this a very good press, just so everything stays in place and is looking very neat. You also want to repeat the same process for the armholes as well, but I am going to be working with a basic sleeve, so I'm just going to. So this is what the dress is looking like after fixing the sleeve. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video and you found it helpful in any way, do not forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not yet subscribed already, and I will see you on the next video.